Well, 13th week, and you know what that means, an auspicious start. In fact, what it means, you do the maths, it's 3 months. So for 3 months I put some videos up, and to be honest, they're just practice. These are just practice videos, and just for a bit of fun. And why else would you do videos but to just join in on the community? And so that's all this is for. And for that reason I haven't done any promotion, nothing whatsoever. And yet 8 people have subscribed. I've had 525 views, and that totals 18 hours, and I'm quite surprised. I'm astonished by that. I think that's great. So maybe it is an auspicious start. However, 13th week, I think it's time for a review and see what I've actually achieved. So I've got some notes in front of me, that's what you can hear there. And if I point you down, there'll be 1 or 2 setbacks on the way. I have been looking a lot at printers, but the other accessory I never had. Let's tighten that, hope that stays there. The other accessory I never had were these disk drives. And so I built up something of a collection. And just reach over here. I'll show you what I've got. They're all 1541s, except this one at the end. And sadly, not one of them is working. This one did come with a rainbow badge, you can see there. I've removed it so I could paint the lid, because if I lift this away, the bottom half of this is in fact one of those white cases with only half vented, even though it is in fact a shortboard, an early shortboard, not a longboard, which would have come to these tabs here, which just about show. Let's go that way around. Instead, it's got these little extra tabs on here to account for the fact that the chassis doesn't have tabs at this point. So these little extra bits support the shortboard. So it's one of the very early shortboards, and for that reason I've painted a brown lid in an off-white colour to match more or less the bottom half of this. I can bring that up. I'm very, very tempted, rather than replacing this badge, to buy one of the replica Vic 1541 black badges and put that on there. However, the machine itself, when I switch it on, the voltage regulators up here seem to get very, very hot. The motor down here doesn't spin, and the red light comes on. And which way am I looking? Let's go that way. Here we are. The red light comes on, and I can't determine why that is. I cannot find a fault on that machine to be able to fix it. The same is true more or less with this. Now this is one of the traditional rainbow badges, and if I switch this on, click that back into place, green light on as usual, the red light will flash and the motor spins continuously. So this system wasn't initializing. I did find a fault in that. If I can bring this close, let's see if I can bring this close. All the diagnostics tend to point to these ROM chips up here and a RAM chip, and sometimes these little logic chips which control those functions. And I tested these chips over and over, couldn't find a fault. Eventually, underneath this ROM chip I found a bad trace, and I've jumped it underneath. Now this board does initialize, but put that back. I've still got some work to do, because I can control the motor, and I'm getting the motor movements, which I'm not getting on this machine, but it's not reading anything, which could be alignment, it could be things like that, of that nature. However, it seems to be the problem is more up this end of the board, because if I plug in the serial port and do a communication test, which is described in some of the books that you can download PDFs online, it's not communicating with the computer. So I'm assuming there's another bad trace somewhere on that board. So in my little roundup, I've been very enthusiastic about printers. The floppy drives have been troublesome. This machine is a little bit like the white one here, a bit of a mongrel. It has a brown base, and just to show you the difference, these machines are vented all the way along the bottom, whereas this machine isn't, showing that this may well have been a black badge original, but it's missing its lid. It had a mismatched brown lid. I painted that one. This one should have been brown again. It's got a mismatched lid. The lid is one of those 64C coloured lids, which is quite good because I have a 64C, and so I've matched this up with that computer, and for a brief period I got this machine working and it was doing sterling work, and then it decided to have a head crash, knocked itself out of alignment, I assume, and I can't recover it. It's been a few days, but I'm really struggling, and so I bought 3 machines with the hope of restoring these, perhaps making a little video out of it, and I've been thwarted all the way through. So let's bring this camera back up again. I'm frustrated, I don't know what to do, and the irony of it is the one machine that is working that I've never opened up is one I bought recently for my beloved Plus 4. If I haven't said at any time, the Plus 4 is my favourite Commodore. This machine has the toggle, there we go, let's try and find that, the toggle switch on the front where you withdraw the transport card. That toggle indicates a Neutronics drive, which are always the ones people claim to be the most fragile. Not only that, it's a 1551, which comes with a very unusual connection. Hold that up to the camera. This is not the usual serial port. It's designed to go into, bring up my Plus 4, it goes into the same port as this cartridge here. And if you ever looked at photographs of these and wondered why these connections are so big, let's bring that up. If I show you in there, you may be able to see inside there is actually another cartridge port, and the idea is you would wiggle that in, it restores the cartridge connection, and so you can piggyback that on the back and it becomes a little unwieldy, I have to say. But the idea of this is you get the parallel connection, not the usual serial connection. It makes the drive faster, but as these machines were not well received and lasted in the market or in manufacturing for not much more than a year, these drives are quite rare. So I'm really thrilled to find one that's in absolutely lovely, perfect condition and works. And it reads discs, it formats discs, it copies discs, it does everything you want. Everything that this other machine did briefly. And I've never opened it, I haven't looked inside it, I've done nothing at all to this. And so I'm really thrilled to have this. But the irony of ironies, the rarest machine with the most fragile drive is the one that works. My floppy drives aren't working. I thought we would do something a little interesting and just for fun. So here I am. Hello. We've migrated to my desk with a Raspberry Pi 400 and the Commodore 64, which is just slightly out of shot there. And I thought we'd have a look at this. I found this on eBay from Tim Harris of Shareware Plus, available for £5. And this, I discover, pull that out of the bag, is a little radio module which at one time was available on this web page as a build your own, and it would have come as a little circuit board. Obviously some were printed blue, some printed green, and in the middle of that circuit board is a tiny little FM module, which is that tiny little thing in there. So I put my magnifying lens on my iPhone so we can zoom in and have a little look at that module that's housed right in the middle of the device. And there it is. Not much to look at, but a thing all the same. Built this thing up. Now it's available pre-assembled, as I say, from Shareware Plus, which is great because you can lie to your friends and pretend that you built this and show off your soldering skills. I mean, look at that. Tidy and neat. It comes with an antenna attached, which I'm struggling to unwind. There we go. Now, according to the instructions, that is 96 centimetres long. That seems a very precise number. I guess that's designed to work with radio FM frequencies or something. Hang that up somewhere. So I thought we'd have a close-up look at this device. And as you can see, if I can come in with my pointer, there we are. This, if I'm outlining it with the pointer, is the little module that's illustrated. That's the component that seems to be bought in. Two very tiny surface mount devices there and a very tiny chip and something there. Not sure what those would be. The antenna running out here, this blue wire, connects into this pin at the top. Got two surface mount capacitors running off to the stereo jack. We have an electrolytic capacitor that seems to run to a resistor and another surface mount capacitor into here. They look like they run to the 3.3 volts and ground. And we have two control signals running up to a little resistor here going into these two pins here. And that really is it. Nothing much to it. And as we can see, come in with my thing again, RDA 5807. That's the module that's fitted to this ready-made device. And so that's the version of the software I must use. Comes with it. It comes in the anti-static bag, and you go to this website, FM radio for Commodore 64. And the website is TV Home. As this has been developed, it's a Google Home site of Timo Voutilainen, which sounds to me like a Finnish name. So of course we must try something and say, Terve Timo. That's as best as I can do. I hope that worked. This is a rather neat little gadget. We move down the web page and we discover that it can be built into a 3D printed case. It doesn't come with one of those. I have to look to see if I can find one. And we've got some software, some discussions about the software to download. And I've been looking into this for a few minutes. I've got some notes over here to help me understand as well. There are two downloads, and I'm rather interested by this. One download is for the radio software, the second one here, FM radio version 2.6 at the moment. The other one, FM CDC 64. Now I had to look that up. He's linked that in with another project from somebody else. Now, can I enlarge that? No. And the IDE 64 project, which looks to be developed by somebody else. I did see a name. Thomas Prebill. I probably massacred that name. And it looks to be a cartridge that, as the name suggests, will connect an IDE device, a hard drive, a CD drive, various other things like that, but typically a compact flash card is what it was designed for. If you plug in a CD drive, this will not only control a radio, as from that module, it'll also control the CD drive and play music, presumably music, from the CD drive through your Commodore as well. I don't have that. I'm going to look into that later on, I think. That looks rather interesting. So I've already had a go at this. This bit, being a little bit longer, will plug into the user port. I do notice that where the SD card, now is that showing? I may have to bring that closer. where the SD card, let's get that to the centre of the screen, has a bit of a housing around the wire, this one has nothing. And I've noticed that does make it quite difficult to pull out of the user port once again. So maybe I'll look for either to build that housing, which will enclose all of that in a cartridge, or perhaps get the version of this socket that has this bit on the top there would be quite good. Anyway, this will plug into the cassette port, as typical of an SD to IEC, although there are user port versions as well. And on there I've downloaded the software. Quickly plug it in. Then this I shall plug into the user port. Moment. The wire will run out here. I'm going to hook it up on a little handle over there. The speakers I'm going to unplug from the television. I'm going to plug into the top, crackle, into the radio module. We shall switch everything on. Computer is on, monitor. Needs a little encouragement. I think I need to replace a capacitor in there. With that loaded, I will get my file browser, run that. In the meantime, I shall leave that. Showing the home site. FM radio 64 is the file I've put it into. There's an FM radio, the FM radio with the CD controller, that's another file. There is also another download somewhere else on his webpage, the FM radio to work in GEOS. I'm quite keen to try that as well, but another day. Go for the C64 version. We'll go for the user port connection, as if we look there, there's a cassette port version as well, and then just a generic file. We'll go into the user port for this one. And then the pre-assembled version comes with a particular version of this module. It seems there are about 3 to choose from. This is a, looking at my notes here, RDA 5807, which is this, FM radio RDA 5807-up, which means user port, I assume. We'll go for that one. Little character in the bottom flashing, indicating it's loading. And there we go. We have sound. And I can actually hear something coming through there already. Space to continue to the FM radio. And then, if I go back to the README files, I'll need that just now. These are the controls, various keystrokes and what they will do. And now this is, let's tilt the camera down. Colon and semicolon scan up and down. So if I scan up,
pay a big deposit.
hey,
Because now it's a month's rent.
electrical interference there. I'm on 88.4. These are all FM signals. 89.5, so I imagine that's radio 3. And it would be possible to program all of these in. And I believe you can save the settings once you've got them. There's no particular reason to. Plus and minus, increase the volume and decrease the volume. Let's put it on a medium setting. Scan through to the next channel. Some discussion there. A little bit of pop music. Let's not stay on there too long in case you get any complaints from YouTube.
I do prefer one though.
Sounds like commercial radio.
How you feel?
So as you press these two keys, you can see scan highlighting. Press S, and we're getting mono and stereo. That was a music channel. Would have been quite good to illustrate bass boost with that highlighted. I can hear the difference. Perhaps doesn't come across. We also got M for mute. Quite useful to avoid staying on anything for too many seconds. Scan through, what else have we got? Back to the beginning. We've also got spacebar, switches the radio on and off. Cancel the mute.
It's ridiculous.
It's all working rather nicely. I'm really thrilled with this. I think it's great. I'd love to try that CD controller as well. Now, I tried bass boost on this classical music. And off. Subtle, but it's there. Stereo, which you won't hear on the camera, makes a bigger difference.
And poor weather delays traditional.
Got some music, so let's try bass boost. I have to say I can't hear the difference on that track. There we go, bassy music. Don't know what that is. It's not making an enormous difference on that. But look at that, radio. Let's mute that for a moment. Radio on the Commodore Plus 4. 64, beg your pardon. Using the 64 as a controller. It works!